The 3 horsemen escorted the coach the remainder of the short drive to the castle gates. Once the coach passed through, it came to a halt in a courtyard large enough to host more than a dozen carriages at once. Llanmer was an enormous structure, a palace more than a castle, its size deceptive from a distance. The boughs of ancient trees reached across a large round of lawn. It was an incongruous sight. After travelling through the wild forests, Greer had expected peasants and barnyard animals, not a civilized setting. But as she climbed down from the coach, she looked up and noticed birds' nests on various nooks and crannies in the castle walls. In those nests were enormous birds. Some were black, others were red, some of them preened while others rested, and some of them simply watched. Greer was instantly reminded of a line from Macbeth. "The raven himself is hoarse, that croaks the fatal entrance of Duncan." A shiver ran down her spine as 2 footmen, dressed in black livery, appeared in the main doors to the castle and hurried forward to the carriage. Behind them, another man, dressed in the black and grey uniform of a butler, walked toward them. When he reached them, he bowed low and said, "Bonjour." "Bonjour," Greer said politely, but Percy responded in Welsh. The butler answered in kind, and Percy, nodding to whatever he said, offered his arm to Greer. "We are to be shown inside." A small finger of fear warned her against it. She was uncomfortable in her ability to understand the language, and was walking into the home of a murderer, where predatory birds nested. But Percy squeezed her hand reassuringly, and persuaded her once more. Stepping into the castle was almost like stepping into another century. It seemed medieval. The interior was dark and close, the stone walls damp. They passed through a small entry into a large foyer, where a stunning array of swords and armour was displayed on the walls. An entire ancient regiment might have been outfitted from those walls. There were also several banners and standards bearing Welsh words, and the symbol of a flying red dragon that Greer vaguely recollected from her childhood, and an enormous mirror to reflect what little light there was. The butler continued on, as did Greer and Percy, down a dark corridor, through one of the turrets, and yet another corridor lined with dark paintings and more accoutrements of war. At the end of that long corridor, the butler opened a pair of oak doors and said something in Welsh. Percy led her through.